What is going on, 12s? Welcome back to another episode of the Always Compete Seahawks podcast. Now, I was not going to do a podcast until we hired an OC, and ultimately, that kind of changed because I got to thinking, right? I got to thinking about this Seahawks team. Obviously, it was a great parade day, so I had a lot of time to think about the Seahawks and what was going on with them. And ultimately, when I was thinking about this whole team, I was thinking about this offseason and the next steps. And I think it would be a really good way with the offseason like less than a month away. Free agency is less than a month away from beginning. I think it's worth talking about what are the real big decisions that the Seahawks need to make this offseason. And if we can kind of approach the offseason with this mindset of like, okay, what are the Seahawks going to be truly looking to do this offseason? What are really the big decisions? Because there are some things that are definitely going to get done this offseason, but I don't know if they're necessarily massive decisions when you're talking about extending Devin Witherspoon, extending a guy like JSN. Obviously those are going to happen. You want to extend those guys. So it goes without saying that like those aren't really decisions. But down here, I have five legitimate hard decisions that John Schneider and Mike McDonald have to make this offseason when trying to build this team to go back to back. So it should be fun. I think we're just going to dive right in here. But before we do, uh, there is some news to talk about. The Seahawks have officially begun their offensive coordinator search. We got news today on four potential candidates that they will be interviewing all in house. Three of them, which I mentioned in my video yesterday, were there. Andrew Janoko, the quarterback's coach, Justin Outen, the run game specialist and assistant offensive line coach, and Jake Peets, the pass game coordinator, all are getting interviews for this. They are all getting interviewed between Thursday and Friday, so tomorrow and the next day. And then there was a fourth candidate who I did not name, and frankly, no one has named, and that is Mac Brown, the tight ends coach for the team who's been here since 2024. He was one of the holdovers from when Kubiak came from the first offensive staff. So Mac Brown, not much to profile here. You know, he coached for the Jets for a few years, and then he got a promotion to come here and be under Mike McDonald. I believe, if I'm correct, he was under like the Robert Sala regime there, and he was in kind of that. I believe it was Mike LaFleur was the OC at the time, and he is obviously now the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. So, as far as I can tell, this is a guy who's really highly respected in the building. I don't know much more about him. I don't know much more about his mindset, but he's built a pretty good tight end room, I think, all things considered. AJ Barner was really a surprise breakout this year. Elijah Arroyo, I still really like where he's going, and Eric Saubert and Nick Hollerup were both very elite blocking tight ends. So all those guys had an impact. I don't know how serious of a candidate he is. I don't know if Mike McDonald is just trying to feel out every potential possibility. But to me, the three real favorites seem to be Outen, Peets, and Janoko. And we'll see if any other in-house candidates will get an interview. We do not know if these are the only in-house candidates that will get an interview. These can't be the only candidates who get an interview because Seattle still needs to interview at least, I believe, the rule for coordinators, if I'm not mistaken, is they need to interview one minority candidate to bypass the Rooney Rule to be compliant with that. So that is also worth noting. They will have to get that interview done at some point. I don't know with who. I don't know when it will be. Who knows? For all we know, that might be in the plans tomorrow and just hasn't been reported. But we will see that play out, and we'll see at the end of the day which one of these guys gets the job. Now, whether who knows when this will get announced? I imagine very quickly. But stay tuned because we might have a few reports coming in the next couple of days of potential outside candidates who could also be getting a quick look from McDonald and the staff. Now, with all that being said, let's jump right in with the main topic of today. So I have these listed from 5 to 1, 5 being the least important, 1 being the most important, at least in my opinion. And we are going to break it all down. So starting with number 5 here, one major decision uh, that I was thinking about when I was looking at this team, I was really impressed with the offensive line this year. And my real question is how much do you want to improve on Anthony Bradford, the right guard, who I think we can all agree like his bad moments are about as bad as anybody's. Like his moments where he has a mess up, where he misses a block, are about as bad as any player in the NFL. That being said, he wasn't horrible this year. He was horrible in recent years, like the coming into this year, but in general this year, I thought Anthony Bradford was a usable guard. He didn't stop you from winning a Super Bowl. He actually played a very large part in the run game being so successful in the Super Bowl. In general, I think you can exist without necessarily going out and trying to draft a guard high or pick or signing a guard to a legitimate contract. I think you can survive with Anthony Bradford. I don't think that you're necessarily in a position, unlike last year, where it's like, hey, if we don't improve on this offensive line, this offense won't function. I think a lot of the offense is already built up, and then you just have to decide, like, how much do you not like Anthony Bradford? Because as far as I can tell, it seems like the coaches really do like him, and it seems like the coaches enjoy having him on the roster. So all that being said, like, I am truly curious about how willing they are to get bold in improving on Anthony Bradford. And how much, like, do they really feel as though he is a gaping hole, as like other Seahawks fans do, and as a lot of fans obviously mock him and troll him, and frankly I've been there as well, and I understand it because he is kind of a meme. He has a lot of bad plays, but he does not get a lot of credit for the good plays, especially in the run game that he does create. So in general, like, I don't know how much you're willing to go out and make your offensive line more expensive, and maybe you're comfortable using up Anthony Bradford's last year of his rookie deal and keeping him cheap, and at least saying, hey, this is the continuity that we're going to be bringing in. Hopefully he can just grow with this unit, and then after this year we'll focus on it. I don't think that this is a position where you have to get super aggressive here in improving on Anthony Bradford, in spite of the fact that, yes, he does have bad moments. He does have seriously, like, crucial mistakes. But in general, I don't think he's so bad that he's going to be the reason that you don't repeat in a Super Bowl next year. So that is my first decision there. And it's an interesting one. It's not necessarily a major one, but I think it's interesting to see how aggressive they are, and, how much do you feel as though he is a huge problem. Number 4 is truly an interesting one. Do you cut Cooper Kupp? This is an interesting discussion here because I think Cooper Kupp is really beloved by the fans and by this team. I love Cooper Kupp. I think his impact off the field, especially, really can't be overstated. Like, the importance he had to some of the receivers in this room, to, like, especially Jackson Smith and Jigba. He has that moment, if you guys watch the mic'd up at the Super Bowl, where he goes up and hugs Cooper Kupp and says, "We would not be here without you. I love you." Um, like, he is a truly super important player who had a big time impact in down the stretch in the playoffs, played his best ball in the playoffs. Now, all that being said, if you're looking at it on paper, Cooper Kupp is I believe, soon to be 33-year-old wide receiver. Yeah, by the start of next season, he will be 33. He only had 500 receiving yards for you this year. And if you cut him, you will save $13 million in 2026. That is a really interesting discussion here. Now, obviously, it's not as cut and dry about, hey, like, we have to cut him. If we want to get this money off the books, we have to cut him. The fact of the matter is, for Cooper Kupp and the level that he's playing at, his $17 million cap hit this year is too much. It's too much money for the production that we get on the field. And I know that his impact is super crucial, but at the end of the day, is his impact off the field worth $17 million? I'm not sure. And I'm not super confident that it is. And if you want to continue to improve on this roster here, I bet you're probably comfortable cutting Cooper Kupp and using that 13 million to, say, re-sign Rashid Shaheed and say, okay, well, Torrey Horton's going to be healthy next year, and our top 3 is Rashid Shaheed, JSN, and Torrey Horton. Now, I think there are other aspects to this that could happen. You could potentially look to restructure this deal. You could add, like, something like a void year and say, hey, listen, we're going to give you, like, a fake extension. It's really just adding a void year so we can kick some of this money down the road and eventually you retire. And speaking of retirement, the Seahawks could just go up to Cooper Kupp and be like, hey, so like, what are you thinking about retiring? I know that the Rams did that and it didn't work out well for them, but you can ask that question again, where Cooper Kupp did just win a Super Bowl for his hometown team. You wonder maybe, hey, I'm about to turn 33. Am I comfortable going out on top of the mountain? So that is going to be an interesting thing to see for Cooper Kupp. And it's going to be an interesting decision if he decides not to retire. How do they approach him? Do they just say, well, this player is not a $17 million player. Let's open up this cap space. Are they going to say, we think that his impact is too great to let him go. His importance to the team is too great to let him go. So instead, we're going to try to rework his deal in some way. I'm not sure how John Schneider is going to decide to approach this. This will be resolved by the start of free agency, though. He will not. This will be a situation where like he's either off the team by the start of free agency, either because he retired or he was cut, or there will be some kind of revised contract by the time free agency starts, and that will all be handled. So I would certainly love to keep Cooper Kupp around, but at the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and you gotta sign players that are worth the money in this business. And I'm just not sure if you can justify Cooper Kupp being a $17 million player in 2026, despite his impact off the field and everything that I already said. I just think that his production on the field is simply not worth that money. And therefore, you got to make this like emotional choice where, hey, are we going to willingly let go of this guy who was so important to this team and was so beloved by the fans and the coaching staff and had such a great importance to this year, even if he was never truly elite or had an elite game? I think it's fair to say that every Seahawks fan felt Cooper Kupp's impact game in and game out. So it's going to be interesting to see the decision they make there. Ultimately, it is at number 4 because Cooper Kupp wasn't that impactful on field. He was not a necessarily game-changing player where, okay, this is a 900-yard receiver where you have to make this choice. At the end of the day, this is a 500-yard receiver. You could argue that Torrey Horton might be better than him from the first snap next year, especially if you bring back Rashid Shaheed. That kind of makes him the odd man out, and he'd be a glorified player coach. So I'm interested to see where they go with Cooper Kupp and how they feel there. At my number 3, this is a really big one. Sam Darnold extension, and if so, how much? This is an interesting question here. Sam Darnold, I think one of the big things about his contract is that it is not expensive for the level of quarterback that you are getting in the NFL, right? Like Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, and he is making probably the 15th most money of any quarterback in the NFL. I'm going to try to pull up these rankings here. Give me 1 second. For quarterbacks. So yeah, looking at it right now, Sam Darnold is currently 18th in the NFL in APY at $33.5 million a year. Some of the guys above him, or some of the guys just below him, are like, listen to this fall off, right? So you have Sam Darnold at 33.5. You have Baker Mayfield at 33.333 million, and then it's Justin Fields at 20, and then you're already at rookie quarterbacks: Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young. Like, these are guys who are on rookie scale contracts. So Sam Darnold is literally at the lowest tier of quarterbacks who have gotten paid. So I think that is one of the biggest benefits of having Sam Darnold, and it allows you to have so much cap space in spite of the fact that you just won the Super Bowl. Now, I once again imagine, hey, Sam Darnold just won you a Super Bowl. He's probably going to want a little bit more money than he's going to be making. And at that point, you wonder, okay, where do you elevate him to? Geno Smith is making 37.5. He'll probably want more than Geno Smith. Matthew Stafford is making 42, although it's worth noting that Matthew Stafford is also going to be looking for a pay raise. I imagine he will probably jump into the 50s this offseason. Mahomes is making 45. Kirk Cousins is making 45, but that contract will probably not exist by the time you talk about a Sam Darnold extension. He will probably be cut. Deshaun Watson's making 46. That's obviously very ugly. Kyler Murray's making 46. Then you kind of jump into the 50s with Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Justin Herbert. All these guys are making around 52. So you obviously, I think, want to extend Sam Darnold. You want to give him the money that he's earned. He's won you a Super Bowl. It's really hard to justify not giving him his money, and he's so beloved by the team, and he's a true leader. And he is no longer this guy who, when you signed him, he kind of felt expendable. This is a Super Bowl winning quarterback for you now, and he's a leader on this team, and you want to give him what he's earned. The question is like, what has he earned? In my mind, the sweet spot here is probably around $45 million. Like, give him a healthy raise, but he's not amongst the highest paid quarterbacks in football. Like, I don't know if you give him the Jared Goff contract, he's making 53. Do you give him the Brock Purdy contract? Brock Purdy's also making 53. Like, I don't know. It's a little bit of a leap for me, and like I think you have to be able to see this with clear eyes here, and this is going to come into discussion later with another player who I have higher up. Yes, Sam Darnold just won you the Super Bowl, but you have to clear your brain and then acknowledge the fact that Sam Darnold is not necessarily, he might not be worth that much money. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be asking for the highest paid quarterback in the league money. I'm not even sure if he's going to be asking for top 5 or top 10 highest paid quarterback money. But I do think he's put himself in line for a healthy raise, at least into the mid 40s, if not higher. And I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion to see this offseason. Now, if there is an extension signed this offseason, which I do expect eventually, I would expect it to happen probably after the draft. I don't think this would be like a, hey, we're right before free agency, we banged out this extension with Sam Darnold. This feels like something that would happen down the road. There's gonna be a lot of extensions for this team. The Devin Witherspoons, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, the Sam Darnolds, even Leonard Williams could be in line for an extension. Chenna Nwosu, like a lot of people are in line for potential extensions. So Sam Darnold is going to be on that list, and it's going to be interesting to see how they attack that at the end of the day, and how they feel he's worth. And it's going to be ultimately really interesting to see how those negotiations play out. At my number 2, do you pick Riq Woolen, Josh Jobe, or do you try to keep both? This is an interesting one. Yeah, Riq Woolen and Josh Jobe are both free agents this offseason. They are both expected to make a comfy amount of cash. They are not going to be cheap to retain. I think especially Riq Woolen. Now, if I'm looking at Spotrac's projections here, let me pull these up. They have Riq Woolen projected to make $8.1 million, and they have Josh Jobe projected to make $9.7 million. So, you know, like, they have Jobe projected to make a little bit more. I know that Spotrac does their projections extremely analytically. Like, they put in the numbers, and then the machine tells them what they deserve to be paid. That ultimately is not probably how this is going to work, mostly because, hey, free agency drives up costs, and free agency also, like, people are going to bet on upside in free agency. People are going to bet on, you know, guys potentially taking a bigger step and a bigger role on their team if they were to sign them. Therefore, even though their system might say Riq Woolen is only worth $8 million because he got benched at some points this year, honestly, he was frankly, by the end of the year, behind Josh Jobe on the depth chart, and he did have some of those big gaffes during the season. I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at Riq Woolen and see a 27-year-old corner who is perceived as a ball hawk, despite the fact that since his rookie year he really hasn't been. But regardless, that's his perception. Extremely athletic, extremely long, flashed several times throughout his career, his young career, and ultimately, like, teams are going to probably pay this guy $10 to $12 million a year. Josh Jobe might make less than 9.7. He is a little bit older. He's going to be 28 years old. He's smaller. He's not necessarily as flashy. I don't know what the Seahawks prefer. I feel like if I'm just strictly talking like what I would do, I mean, Josh Jobe was starting over Riq Woolen for a reason. Josh Jobe, the only times where I saw him really struggle was when he was getting out athletic, like when he was not fast enough or not strong enough. Riq Woolen, in my opinion, had some really bad mental lapses at this point this year where he just gets beat. You're like, come on, Riq, are we serious? Like, there are points where he might have been traded this year. And ultimately, I'm happy we didn't trade him. But, like, Riq Woolen is not some superstar, in my opinion, who, like, you have to bring back. I think that there is a case to be made to be comfortable letting him walk and just bring back Joe. But you wonder, hey, do you want to let the good times roll and just bring everybody back on this defense that was so good this year and had such a tight bond? I'm not sure. And that is going to be an interesting decision. Like, who do you prefer? Do you bet on the upside with Reek and say, well, this guy still could be an elite corner or at least a very good corner? Josh Jobe, I think, is good, and what you're getting is good, and you know he's good, but he's not going to be great. Or do you say, you know what, we're going to open up the pocketbook and bring both back? It's going to be interesting to see. Well, if I had to guess, I think Reek Woolen is probably going to fall somewhere like 3 to 4 years. You know, if we're talking a 3-year deal, probably 36 million. Josh Jobe feels to me like a 3-year 27 million, like something like that. So like significantly less money because people are going to bet on upside with Recool and they're going to bet on the flashiness there. Um, but I think Josh Jobe might be the better player. So it's going to be an interesting decision to see how they attack it and whether they decide that, hey, both of these guys are worth bringing back and both of these guys have earned their shot to be brought back, and we're going to be aggressive in getting them both in rather than saying, okay, we're going to focus on one to keep and then work on filling some holes elsewhere. So that is going to be an interesting thing to see as well. And lastly here, at number 1, how much is too much for Kenneth Walker? This is a question that hurts. Kenneth Walker was so good down the stretch, especially after Zach Charbonnet got hurt. I do think that there was an expectation at one point that eventually Zach Charbonnet would take the reins and you'd probably let Kenneth Walker go, or walk, if you will. But after the run he had, he won you Super Bowl MVP. He was the whole reason why your offense moved the ball in the Super Bowl in that 49ers game. He was just so good down the stretch, and you saw the flashes of truly like an elite running back. I think coming into the playoffs, Kenneth Walker felt like a $8 to $9 million APY player. With the good taste he's left everybody in their mouths, he might be an $11 million player. He might be a $12 million player. I know a lot of people are going to be like, bring back Kenneth Walker no matter what. No matter what, like it's like the movie Draft Day where he slides across the sticky note and it's no matter what. Vontae Mack, no matter what. I'm sorry, I forgot the name for a second. I know a lot of people are going to be like that. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are a duo. They are naturally going to split carries. How much are you comfortable paying a running back who's going to be splitting carries? And I know that there is a possibility that Zach Charbonnet is not healthy for week 1, and that might factor in. But do you want to compete? Like do a 3-year deal if at the end of the day you know that you really need him, like really need him for maybe the first 6 games this season? I don't know. And Kenneth Walker's great, but are you going to pay a running back in a running back kind of by committee room here who has shown that he's necessarily not a tremendous receiver, that he's not a tremendous pass blocker? Are you going to pay a running back who's splitting carries with that kind of profile $11 million a year because he won you Super Bowl MVP? This is another one of those players who, like I said, it is going to be important to remove yourself from what happened at the end of the year and take off the rose-colored glasses and really truly analyze, is this guy worth what he wants? I believe Kenneth Walker wants to stay in Seattle. That being said, I don't know if he'll take a hometown discount. He might look at an opportunity somewhere else and say, well, listen, I can get more money there, and I know I'm not going to split carries there. Who knows? I don't know if he's frustrated about his usage, about the fact that he was not used more at the goal line, about anything like that. He did just get a new agent. Like, there are a lot of factors here that are a little nerve-wracking for me. And ultimately, unlike a guy like Rashid Shaheed, or unlike, one of Reek Woolen and Josh Jobe, I don't know if Kenneth Walker is this, we got to bring him back type guy. I would love to bring him back. But at the end of the day, if I see Kenneth Walker signed a 4-year, 48, 49, $50 million contract with another team, I would look at it and be sad, but I would also be able to be like, I see why they didn't do that contract. I see why they didn't match that bid, because ultimately you're paying that money for a running back who you know is going to be splitting carries. So that is a huge question. John Schneider quipped today that Kenneth Walker was trying to negotiate with him backstage while he was obviously hammered. I don't know if he was joking or if he was telling the truth, but regardless, this is going to be a really interesting thing with Kenneth Walker here, and a really interesting decision as far as how necessary do they feel like he is, and how far are they willing to go to bring back Kenneth Walker. So that is a really interesting one. And I guess I'll throw in an honorable mention here, even though I'm kind of feeling like this decision feels quite obvious to me. Kobe Bryant is an expiring free agent, and he will likely get a healthy amount of money. Safeties tend to not get paid too much, but regardless, like, he will get paid. He was a safety who got a lot of interceptions on the best defense in the NFL, who just won a Super Bowl. That being said, you have Ty Okada, who's an exclusive rights free agent who you could bring back with a very cheap tender. I wonder, are they just willing to let Kobe Bryant walk and to say, hey, Ty Okada, you were very good as a rotational safety for us this year. He had moments where he flashed. Like, I go back to that Commanders game where he had that pick on the sideline. I wonder if they're just willing to say, Ty Okada, are you going to just step up? Just, Kobe's too expensive for us. You are pretty good. You might not be as good, but you're pretty good, and you are cheap. And he's also younger than Kobe Bryant. I bet you there is a world where they are probably just willing to say, you know what, Ty, just do it. We're just going to promote you in a cap saving effort there, rather than going out and paying Kobe Bryant. So, there are a lot of tough decisions to make with this team, a lot of important free agents. Um, and in general, it's going to be interesting to see where this team goes. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please give your thoughts on anything you have in the comments below, whether you disagree with anything, whether you agree, whether you want to add to anything I said. I appreciate you guys for watching. The next podcast I will do is whenever the Seahawks hire an offensive coordinator. Who knows when that will be? That could be tomorrow. It could be a week from now. So we will see whenever that is, and that will be the next episode I do. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all for the support. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. Peace out.